PD Beats here from Popternative with writer and director of Influencers, Kurtis David Harder. Good to see you, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is exciting, a really big film festival run for Influencers, which is the follow-up to Influencer, which was one of my favorite films, and then you decided to make a follow-up, and I don't know, after watching the first one, I don't know how you would make a second. You did, exceeded expectations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for us, when we were thinking, we didn't expect to do a sequel off the top, so kind of coming back and being able to accomplish some of the things that we really wanted to do with the first one, but it was such a small movie, and just kind of through word of mouth allowed us to kind of come back and do something a little crazier.
Absolutely. So we'll get to the new genre that we think this movie is, right? I think we're onto something.
Yeah, I think we're onto something.
But I just kind of wanted to ask, because, anytime you make a follow-up or a sequel to something, it's how are we going to make it bigger? How are we going to make it better? I feel like those are the big questions. Were those the questions for you with the second one?
I think for me, when you're going to do a sequel, for me, it's more about what is the purpose, and is there more to explore and kind of unearth that was kind of left behind from the first movie? So I think for me, it's not only are you kind of expanding the canvas and expanding the scope, but also kind of exploring new sides of the characters, doing some cool role reversals, and kind of playing with what worked with the first film and kind of expanding on that.
And how much of it, with a lot happening in horror films right now, did you kind of, with the first one, we'll go back to the Influencer specifically, were you making a slasher? Were you making something in the psychological space? Was it focused on social media influencers? What was the base concept for the first film for you?
I mean, the first one was really just kind of around the idea of we go on these long travel trips. We'll travel all the way around the world, but then the first thing we'll do is go eat at McDonald's. So it's kind of that idea of looking for familiarity in a foreign place and having your trust in things that you, trusting someone who's from North America overseas. You would trust them, for some reason you trust them over there, but you might not trust this person at home. So I think it's kind of playing with that idea of familiarity not being kind of as safe as we might think.
What has the reaction been now that people could see Influencers, right? At film festivals, it's going to be on Shudder December 12th, but people are able to see it. And I know there was a lot of secrets about certain things that happened, but take me through that audience reaction, that global audience reaction, because there's been some festivals in Canada, in the States, one the Screenfest, Fright Fest in London, the UK. Yeah. What's that been now that people can finally see a lot of that secret stuff that you were keeping?
I mean, it's been really fun because we really wanted to. The first film was all about kind of subverting expectations and kind of playing with structure. And so coming to this one, we wanted to do kind of some similar, but also new things with kind of playing with audience expectations of kind of what you're expecting coming from seeing the first one but also having a film that does stand on its own. So.
We'll get to, CW played by Cassandra Naud, because that character just is crazy and insane, and I think she'll be okay when we say that. But I do want to ask, because a lot of big questions that people had is how is Emily Tennant's character coming back, right? Because after the first one, and I know there's a lot of conversations and everything. I want to know what that conversation was like, because it felt at times like she was playing a completely different character. Were those kind of some of the conversations you were having with her before going to camera?
Yeah, I mean, for both characters, I think we're seeing very different sides of them. I think for this one, we're kind of playing with where does this story kind of take place in the grand scheme of things in terms of its relation to the first film. So kind of coming in and seeing CW in this new relationship. And then when we get to kind of see maybe when we kind of finally see our other character with Madison, where has she been and how does it fit into kind of the plot points of the first film?
What do a lot of the conversations have with your actors and your crew? Are they, before you actually go rock and roll, we're going to go film? Is it on the day? When do you as a filmmaker to have a lot of those creative conversations? Is a lot of prep before going to camera?
I mean, I think especially coming into a follow-up sequel, it's you've already built the foundation of who these characters are. So for us coming into kind of seeing a new kind of take or a new kind of plot, we already have that base. We're able to kind of dive a little bit deeper, but understanding it's how would this person react? We've done a whole movie with these characters, so to kind of come in and throw them into these new kind of crazier situations is kind of fun. And so you get to have these conversations that kind of already have a lot of setup, but you're able to kind of dive a little deeper.
there's a lot of different ways how we watch things. We can stream movies, we can go see them at film festivals, theatrical releases for TV shows. There is the, dropping them all at once, the binge, and then there's the week-to-week drops. Are you ever conscious of how the audience is going to consume the media you're producing while you're making it? Or does that kind of happen a bit afterwards, so to speak?
Yeah, that's tricky. I mean, the goal is theatrical, obviously, but I think like with how people consume content, we are making movies especially with these two that are very much travel focused and kind of showcasing places that I might not necessarily even go to, or most of us don't necessarily spend a lot of time in. So for us, it's definitely a level of fantasy fulfillment. If you can't necessarily go on some big extravagant trip to Bali or France or Thailand, we'll be able to take you there and have some fun with it.
When you make films, whether you're even producing it, does the genre come first, or does the kind of topics? Are you making a social media movie about that is in the genre of horror, or are you making a horror film about social media influencers? Do you think about that at all? Because it's interesting.
I mean, I think genre is just such a great box to explore kind of all sorts of things. So for me, it really comes down to kind of what's the social or emotional consequences of what's going on in the current zeitgeist. I think with these films, it's very much about technology and social media. So for me, it's what does this do to the characters, and what is kind of the story that we're really diving into, and the kind of the deeper questions without necessarily having any answers. So. Yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be a script, and then you have a base of what you want to do, and everyone's ready to rock, and you go to production on influencers. But it's indie film. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be changes. How do you navigate that as an indie filmmaker, especially in the horror genre, where a lot of people are trying to make, low budget films. A lot of people are trying to do big things that, like you say, your first film had a small crew. How do you navigate that world?
I mean, with both these films, the ethos was kind of keeping it very contained and in a very small, kind of intimate group. I think that I've really come to appreciate that way of filmmaking as opposed to an extremely large crew. But also with these two films, we had kind of extended shoots for what an indie typically is. So being able to be on the road for 5 months, I think kind of helps you allow, if you're discovering stuff with the characters, you're able to spend a little bit more time, especially when you have such a large scope of a film. Yeah.
I want to know if you agree or think about these things, because we meet CW in the first film and we find out she's crazy, and then we are reintroduced to CW in the second film, Influencers, and she was also crazy, but it's a different crazy. I feel like we see different sides of this character. So can you take me through that kind of navigation of how we're just gonna we're not just gonna bring this character back and she is this crazy person trying to take over people's identities. There's way more to it. You know what I mean? What was that like with that character specifically?
Yeah, so I think CW as a character is kind of always wearing a mask, and so especially in the first film, we're seeing kind of the different characters that she's playing in order to kind of infiltrate these people's lives. And so for this one, we wanted to kind of see what would happen if you kind of start to break that mask out and see kind of the more real, who is she when she's alone, who is she when she's in a relationship, and seeing kind of the different facades that she plays, and is when we actually dig down into the root of it, is this actually her, or is this just another character she's playing? With kind of the opening in France, she's kind of cultivated this very kind of Hollywood-esque dream life of kind of what it's like to live in maybe the 50s and 60s in France, and so she's kind of cultivated this. Is this who she actually is, or is she still playing a character even for herself? So I think she's a really fun kind of chameleon to kind of dive into the different sides of her.
There are so many scenes that I can't talk about right now, but I can't wait for people to see them. And I mean, there's some that were in the trailer that was released, so I guess we could talk a little bit about it. But there are some, bloody scenes, and I think that's kind of one of those things where it's horror movies are going to be changed concept-wise, but there's always going to be gore and blood. I do want to kind of ask, because we were talking about this before. I think we're onto something. I think you are an incredible filmmaker working in an incredible genre of so much going on, and I think there's a new genre I think we can call this film, and I said I think this is a daylight horror film because you're basically killing people in beautiful like vacation settings in the sunlight.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's in these tropical places. It doesn't always have to be dark. Violence happens in all sorts of environments.
Did you see Midsommar?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by like the
same thing where it's like you're playing into when the sun's out, the fun's out.
But I can't think of others. Like I think we need to like talk about this as a daylight horror film.
Yeah, we gotta start the new brand.
Absolutely. Is it something that is so? There are some scenes in mansions in this, and I love those scenes. Yeah. Can you talk to me about filming those scenes specifically? And like, I feel like from a filmmaker perspective, it's a big like house, right? There might be echoes and everything. Like, were there a lot of challenges there as well?
I think the first film was like we were obviously very limited, but we were trying to find kind of the coolest places we could find in Thailand. And I think it was cool to kind of come into this one where because we have an expanded scope and we're shooting 3 different continents, it's like, what are some of these kind of crazy places that I've never been to, or like these, like I think shooting in kind of these grand chateaus or like this abandoned castle or obviously in the jungles of Bali, it's just really cool to kind of just have such a crazy variety of different things. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a lot of people that are making a lot of content right now, and you kind of said there's different ways to kind of consume content, and you say theatrical release, but do you have any advice for aspiring kind of filmmakers, especially in the genre these days, that just kind of want to make something spooky, cool, and different?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a fun story for me because I think like this originated when we were making a bunch of horror films. Me and like 5 other friends just went and made this little road trip comedy coming of age film and just like made it really for fun. And it was just like, it was just us, it was all our own money. And we kind of finished this film and kind of started to think about like, what if you were to kind of expand this way of filmmaking? And it's really like, if you look at kind of how we made even the sequel, it's really just a group of friends.
The follow-up.
The follow-up, yeah, whatever. It's a second one. I think like even with that ethos, like we're not much different than anybody with their friends. And I think it's just, a lot of it was, we were just shooting on cameras that we owned, and it was just kind of that very much self-driven way of independent filmmaking. So I think just grab a camera and some friends, and you're not doing much different than what we're doing.
Kurtis, David Harvard, thank you so much for your time, man. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So exciting. December 12th on Shudder.
December 12th, yeah.
And some news as well that people could see the film, the first one, on Netflix soon.
Yeah, December 1st, the first film will be on Netflix. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. This has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative has a lot of really cool content. Popternative.com for other content. And be sure to check out the magazine as well. We might or might not have some cool things with the cast of influencers. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, this is Peter Beats and Kurtis signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.